Spell that again now. And add one little bit on the end. Just think of potato. How does it spell? You're right phonetically, but what else? There you go.
44 David, PM Vulcan 123. The vehicle that was taken is a 93 Dodge.
This week there was a tragedy in Kansas. 10,000 people died. An entire town destroyed. I talked to somebody in the governor's office, Governor Sebelius, who I was going to be traveling with in New Orleans, had to fly back. Found out that the National Guard in Kansas only had 40% of its equipment, and they are having to slow down the recovery process in Kansas.
Because, you know, it is just wonderful to be back in Oregon, and over the last 15 months we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go. One left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit, but my staff would not justify it.
The Kennedys decided we're going to do an airlift. We're going to go out to Africa. And we're going to start bringing young Africans over to this country and give them scholarships to study so that they can learn what a wonderful country America is. And this young man named Barack Obama got one of those tickets and came over to this country. And he met this woman whose great-great-great-great-grandfather had owned slaves. But she had a different idea. There's some good craziness going on because they looked at each other and they decided, we know that in the world as it has been, it might not be possible for us to get together and have a child. But something stirred across the country because of what happened in Selma, Alabama, because some folks are willing to march across a bridge. And so they got together and Barack Obama Jr. was born. So don't tell me I don't have a claim on Selma, Alabama. Don't tell me I'm not coming home when I come to Selma, Alabama. I'm here because somebody marched for our freedom. I'm here because y'all sacrificed for me. I stand on the shoulders of giants.
Strong countries and strong presidents talk to their adversaries. That's what now that's what Kennedy did with Khrushchev. That's what Reagan did with Gorbachev. That's what Nixon did with Mao. I mean, think about it. Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, these countries are tiny compared to the Soviet Union. They don't pose a serious threat to us the way the Soviet Union posed a threat to us, and yet we were willing to talk to the Soviet Union.
So John McCain he said, oh, Obama doesn't understand the threat of Iran. I understand the threat of Iran. But what I know is that the Soviet Union had the ability to destroy the world several times over, had satellites spanning the globe, had huge masses of conventional military power, all directed at destroying us. So I've made it clear for years that the threat from Iran is grave, but what I've said is that we should not just talk to our friends, we should be willing to engage our enemies as well. That's what diplomacy is all about.
Everybody knows that it makes no sense that you send a kid to the emergency room for a treatable illness like asthma. They end up taking up a hospital bed. It costs you gave them treatment early, and they got some treatment and a breathalyzer or an inhalator, not a breathalyzer. I haven't had much sleep in the last 48 hours, so what they'll say is, well, it costs too much money. But you know what? It would cost about the same as what we would spend over the course of 10 years. It would cost what it would cost us. All right. Okay. We're going to. It would cost us about the same as it would cost for about, hold on one second, I can't hear myself. But I'm glad you're fired up, though. I'm glad.
You know, I am not vetting my VP search committee for their mortgages, so you're going to have to direct. Well, no, I mean, it becomes sort of a. I mean, this is a game that can be played. Everybody, you know, who is tangentially related to our campaign, I think, is going to have a whole host of relationships. I would have to hire the vetter to vet the vetters. I mean, at some point, you know, we've just asked people to do their assignments. Jim Johnson has a very discreet task, as does Eric Holder, and that is simply to gather up information about you know, potential vice presidential candidates. They're performing that job well. It's a volunteer, unpaid position. And they're giving me information, and I will then exercise judgment in terms of who I want to select as a vice presidential candidate. So this is, you know, these aren't folks who are working for me. They're not people who, you know, I have assigned to a particular job in a future administration. And, you know, ultimately, you know, my assumption is that, you know, this is a discrete task that they're going to be performing for me over the next 2 months.
10.10 by 1. Go ahead to the pad for coordination.
Twilight's last gleam.
Please be advised that all communications on this channel are being recorded, and violations noted are being sent to the Federal Communications Commission.